So you like do the live thing and record.
Welcome to Photography Chat with Merlin. Photography Chat with Merlin.
There's my mother.
That's your mom? Hi, Octavia's mom. There's going to be some mild cussing, so you've been warned.
Oh, she's used to it.
Well, there's more for like other people.
Oh yeah, I'll try to be good, but no, I don't. I'm not very good at not cussing.
No, same here. I'm like, it actually gets me in trouble in my professional life sometimes, because I present for tech companies publicly and stuff, and when I first started doing this, I got in trouble at a talk where I referred to something being balls deep inside of something. And
I probably would say something like that.
it wasn't the F and an S that got me in trouble. It was the balls deep. They were like, that's too far.
Both.
That's not even a cuss though. It's just a string of words. And they're like, but it's the way you strung them together.
Yeah, that'll happen. Luckily, most of my work experience has been doing receptionist at an animal clinic, and luckily, when I'm on the phone, I can hold back. But I did get caught one time from one client caught me flipping another client off under the desk, and she was like, "I saw that." I was like, "She deserved it."
Obviously,
so,
you know.
Yeah, so I've narrowly escaped a few things at work with
Nice.
my mouth, and occasionally I'll say inappropriate things to clients, but the ones that I know that can handle it and stuff like that.
It just makes you more human, you know?
Yeah, I drooled on a lady's dog once. I bent down to say...
You drew on a dog?
No, I drooled. I drooled on the dog.
I was like, did you get drunk with the dog and drew like dicks on its face or something?
We've probably done that, but no. I leaned over to pet the dog and say hello to it, and just drool just fell right out of my mouth, right on top of the head of the dog. I was like, "Sorry about that. I just drooled on your dog."
I'm sure the dog didn't mind.
Oh, the dog was like, "Whatever."
That's awesome. Well, do you want to take a moment to introduce yourself to the chat people out there for folks that may not be familiar with you?
Oh God, this question always stumps me. I'm just my name's we'll say Octavia for now. Octavia Sharp, which is my middle name. So.
Okay.
It is technically my name, so it is my middle name. And I don't know. I always get stumped with that question. I've been shooting since this is a film photography thing. We'll just start with that. I've been shooting film for 35 years now, because I started when I was in high school when I was 15.
Sweet baby Jesus.
Yeah, I'm old. And then did that. Started then went to undergraduate at the Atlanta College of Art for photography, for studio arts for photography. Worked in a lab for like 2 or 3 years or so in between that, and then went back to school for grad school at the University of Memphis, again for photography, and got a MFA in studio arts, I think is technically what it is.
Okay.
And then with a concentration in photography. I did that with the idea that I was going to then teach, because if you teach at the university level, you just have to have a master's. You don't have to have a teaching background. Did that for a little bit, didn't really like doing that. And then started working at animal clinics, which is, I've done mostly animal clinics. I've worked at a couple of botanical gardens and a museum at one point. But the museum thing was just at the info desk, nothing super fancy or terribly exciting, but it was a nice museum. And then just have been doing film photography. Excuse me, my door came open.
No worries.
On or off, just kind of on and off as a really expensive hobby since grad school. So
it is a bit of an expensive hobby, isn't it?
it is an expensive hobby. Everyone, you know, you get on Instagram and everyone's always going, it's so expensive. And it is, but it's funny when people go like, oh, the price of film now is so expensive. And I'm like, no, it's always been expensive. The first class I taught was a Photo 1 class when I was in graduate school, and one of the professors was like, make sure you let these kids know this is not going to be, it's not going to be an easy A, because everyone comes in and you take an art elective and you're like, I'm going to take some photography, it'll be easy. It's not an easy A, and it's expensive. You're going to spend more money than you probably would like to in this class. So it's always been expensive. And that was like back in 1998. So it's always been expensive. Dang. Which kind of, yeah.
Yeah, someone asked me once how much I've spent on this hobby so far, and I kind of started crunching it in my head, and then I was like, I don't want to play this game anymore.
Don't do it.
It was a lot more than I thought. Like when I started working it out, and it was just like,
I can't. In grad school, I graduated grad school in 2000, and I was in grad school for 3 years, and I did have an assistantship, so I worked part-time in the lab, so I got paid for that. And when you have an assistantship like that, at least back then, I didn't have to pay tuition. So the tuition was free. I just had to pay my living expenses, which I got help with, luckily, from my family. And then most of the stuff I just had to like pay for myself, even with my job at the working part-time in the lab. I graduated, I had 10 grand on credit card, and that was all just photography and
holy shit.
Yeah. And well, and food, I'm sure. And, you know, I was in grad school, I'm sure I went out quite a bit, but yeah, I graduated. I didn't have any student loans or anything, but I did have a 10 grand credit card. So that's a lot of paper and a lot of film. And back then, Pro Packs, I think 120 Pro Packs were $25.
Yeah, but adjust for inflation and, you know, where are they at?
Yeah. So, I mean, so now they're like, what, 50, 55, depending on what you're buying. So,
yeah, they've gotten really crazy. Like,
yeah.
It's been, I can't remember the last time I bought a Pro Pack of Kodak. Like, I bought a bunch of the Fuji Pro 400H when it got cheap. Not that I like Fuji at all, but it was going for like $9 a roll. And so I was like, it's basically 2 for 1 versus Kodak. Like, so
yeah.
I ended up buying a bunch of it. And there's all those scalpers out there now that went out and bought a bunch of 400H too, and now they're trying to sell it for like $20 a roll. And it's like, go fuck yourselves, assholes.
It's out there again. I mean, that Fuji 400, it comes and it goes. I just saw it online. It was B&H had some online today, so I always check just to see.
Yeah.
Although I have.
Oh, what's that?
Although I don't and I don't know much about film and chemistry as far as the film that they're making now versus the film they were making 20 years ago. But the Fuji 400 doesn't seem like it's the same Fuji as it was 20 years ago.
I think everything's a little different because like chemical rules have like tightened up a lot since then. And
you can't put the really bad stuff in it anymore.
Exactly, which makes the colors pop. So it's like you can't have the cancer film anymore.
And then again, of course, when I was shooting 400 back then, I was printing in a darkroom, and when I'm doing the 400 that I have now, I'm on the scanner, so that could be a big difference as well.
Yeah, that could cause a bit of a difference too.
Yeah.
So what got you interested to start getting into photography in the first place?
I don't know. I can't remember that far back. I mean, I was 15. So I have no idea. I know that I like to, whenever we would go to my grandparents for Christmas, I was always looking at the old photo albums and everything. So maybe that's something that sparked an idea. Then I was like, I want to learn how to take pictures. And then it just kind of stuck. I've been doing it for so long, so. It's the only thing I really like to do, so. So when my parents was like, you gotta go to college. You can go to college for anything, but you gotta go. I was like, all right, I'm going for photo. So that's what I did.
Why not?
Well,
That's
yeah,
cool.
I mean, they said anything, so.
Danielle said, yesterday at work, I accidentally said, I fucked up a bunch of shit. And then realized that was a lot of profanity for a professional.
And she's in a library, so, I mean.
Oh, dang.
Isn't she? I think.
Well, sure. That could be like, you know. I mean, I don't really see what's wrong with that kind of language. Like, kids need to hear that shit at some point. So, you know. It's like doing a public service.
I mean, you're going to hear it. There's just no way around it.
Of course. Well, so, my favorite time to hear swearing, honestly, is when little kids do it. There's no purer form of like an F-bomb than when it comes out. Yeah, exactly. Or like when they like stub their toe or something. Fuck.
God damn it! Oh, Jesus Christ, I stubbed my toe.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, there's nothing more endearing than being called a cunt by a 4-year-old. Like, it's just...
That would be good, especially like a toddler, because they're already walking like they're half drunk anyway.
Exactly.
Flinging the feet in front of them and hoping that they don't fall down. I mean...
I love watching little,
So
like,
crazy.
toddler kids, because they look like little drunk people. They're just, like, wandering
They
around.
do. They're just like... I'll just fling that foot in front of me and hope that I don't fall on my face.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
You know? That just...
And then...
It would be kind of fucking hilarious if, like, a little drunk toddler, like, wandered in the room and be like, fucking titties.
Or if they had like one of those candy cigarettes, they come over and like...
Oh, man, like Roger Rabbit.
My ass is twitching. Fuck you.
That would be pretty good. I would like that.
I would love that.
That would probably if I had a kid, that's probably what my kid would just be running around going,
Fuck off.
Yeah, like if it's good I didn't have children because like I would probably be spending a lot of time at their schools and wherever public places they go, apologizing for their behavior a lot.
I mean, my DNA does not need to mix with my husband's DNA. That child would be like an evil genius sitting in the corner of a room somewhere plotting complete domination of the world.
I've seen that with my brother's child. She is the most brilliant and manipulative little person I've met, who's also fierce. Like, she looks tiny and cute, and like she couldn't defend herself, but she's like, when she wants to be, she can be a real tyrant. And
Oh yeah.
so I was like, yeah, if that's what he had, I don't want to picture what I could have ended up with. So
I mean, I was an angel, so not. I set the yard on fire.
John says, my 3-year-old son drops something and says, oh shit, and the best part, he didn't learn it from me, it's all on his mom. I almost burnt my patio down when I was a kid because I was underneath the patio, and I learned that if you like push WD-40 and like light a fire in front of it, it goes and it looks
Nice.
really fucking cool. Like, you know, for a 10-year-old kid, there's nothing cooler than like throwing huge fucking flames. But doing it under a patio with not a lot of ventilation, and then like I'm spraying like oil everywhere, so it's getting under the patio,
course.
and it like lit the
So
under the
good.
patio on fire. And my dad was pissed because it like charred the bottom of the deck.
Well, my mother's on here. She can correct me if I'm wrong, but as the story goes, from what I hear, I mean, I don't really remember this. I think I was like 3 or 4. But apparently my sister like hoisted me on top of the refrigerator so I could grab the matches. And then I think it was like a cool, crisp, dry day. And we were going to build like a little fire. And we set the entire yard on fire. And apparently my parents were in the house resting or just hanging out, whatever. And my mom was like, she could hear like the water turn on outside and then the water turn off. And then it'd be a minute, and then the water would turn on, and the water would turn off. And apparently my sister was running back and forth between the house and the fire with a glass of water, turning the outside hose on, running across. And I was just like, that's not going to work. So I think I went inside. Apparently I went inside, and I was like, Mom, you got a bucket? It was like, Trish, what do you need? Which is my first name.
Yeah.
Trish, what do you need a bucket for, honey? I'm like, Yard's on fire. So, just matter of factly, like, hey, you got a bucket? Like, shit's
Yard's
burning
on
down in the back. Yard's on fire.
You should, if you ever do branding.
There's my mom. Got a bucket.
If you ever do branding, you should just make shirts that say like "got a bucket" on the back, and on the front it says "Yard's on fire."
Yard's on fire. I'll add that to the list because me and Ariella have a joke because I bought a Pentax K1000 back in October. It just appeared one day, and I said, I think I'll buy that because I hadn't bought a film camera since 2004. I think is when I bought my Hasselblad, and I used that pretty much, still do, the same thing, everything. Yeah, there's Ariella talking about shirt line. And so I got this Pentax at an estate sale. I just went and got it, and this one says Honeywell on it, which I haven't seen. Yeah, it says Honeywell on it instead of the A word that I cannot pronounce to say my. Is it a Shia?
Oh yeah. There was like some Honeywell ones, and yeah, the other Shia.
Yeah. So this one says Honeywell. So we were gonna make a shirt that was like, oh, there she is. She knows I can't say it. A shirt that was like, my Hasselblad is green, and on the back goes, and my Pentax says Honeywell, just to be, an asshole about the situation.
That's hilarious. Danielle asks how I'm even alive. That's a really good question, because, I mean, that wasn't the dumbest thing I've ever done. I've done dumber things, and I wonder about that all the time. Like, think about my childhood and shit, and it's like, I shouldn't be here. It's kind of amazing.
Oh, I went face first into a barbed wire fence once and cut like right into my eyelid.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was my sister's fault. So we were going to we lived in when I was super young, we lived in Franklin, Tennessee, which is just outside of Nashville.
Okay.
Not the hip and happening place that it is now. It's like exploded with like all your country music stars and stuff like that. But then when we lived there, it was like in a duplex that backed up to a cow pasture. So we were going to go pet the cows, and there was a barbed wire fence there, and I was apparently crawling underneath it. And my mom was coming out, and as my mom was coming out of the house, and we're doing stuff that we weren't supposed to be doing, I sat up. My sister grabbed my feet to pull me back under, and I went face first into the. So it's a miracle I'm not blind in at least one of my eyes.
Jesus.
I know. See, I mean, and then we like pet our children today, and you're like, they'll be fine. They'll be fine.
Yeah, my mom's favorite comment to that is like, but did you die?
Yeah.
No.
Or, well, my favorite comment, a veterinarian that I used to work with, her mom told her, if you're going to be stupid, or, if you're going to be stupid, you better be tough. So
that's a good line. I mean, I've electrocuted myself so many times. Like, I've lost count of how many times it was, but there was a few memorable ones. And the best one was back in the day, kind of like Ma Bell down there for you guys. Like, the telephone companies were all monopolies. And the monopoly in British Columbia, where I grew up, was BC Tel. And just to get a new phone line put in was like hundreds of dollars for them to come in and put a phone line. And my parents always knew that I was clever with electronics and shit, and so they asked me to look at it, and I was like, well, this is simple. It's a green wire and a red wire. So it's like, the plugs have a green wire and a red wire. The outlet in the side of the house has a green wire and a red wire. So you match up the colors. How hard is that?
Sure.
Yeah, in the springtime, it's wet outside. I'm standing in bare feet in the grass. And I'm like wrenching on the thing because I put like I think 2 or 3 phone lines in the house, and as I'm like wrenching down the terminal, I hear the phone ring, and that was the day I learned that the telephone lines send 120 volts down the line when the phones ring, and that was mostly because that's how you actually made the old like bling kind of things. They would send the voltage down to fire the ringer. Now they don't really need to do that because it's all digital and shit. But yeah, it sends 120 volts down the line, which electrocuted the shit out of me. And then when you actually pick up the phone, it steadies at 50 volts, and that's how you keep the phone line up. So yeah, I learned the hard way. A lot of juice goes down the line. Not enough to kill you, but it sure smarts a hell of a lot.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been electrocuted. That I have not had the pleasure of.
Waster still has some comments here. He said, good times, I've got more screws in my body than possibly my car. And he also says, I've worked with a 50 kilowatt AM transmitter for almost 20 years. Me and electricity have had a few altercations. I couldn't imagine what kind of altercations you'd have with something like that. Like, Jesus.
I couldn't even imagine. That's gotta hurt.
So, I noticed in all the samples you sent me there, kind of in line with the electricity theme, a lot of mortuaries and things like that. What got you into wanting to shoot that kind of stuff?
The mausoleums?
Yeah, the mausoleums.
Well, I when I was in grad school, I was taking a 4x5 class, and you go down the list of assignments, and one of the assignments is we had to do an architectural interior. And I was like, well, I don't like to be around a lot of people. So I was like, where can I go shoot some architecture and an interior that nobody's going to be around? I need to find, like, where am I going to find an empty building that nobody's anywhere around?
Nobody living, at least.
Yeah, no one living, at least. And so I think I just spit on my phone. I was driving around, as we did back in the day before, Google and Google Maps, and you could, like, scope stuff out before you left the house. But so I was just driving around. I was driving around in the cemetery and saw a big building. And I was like, oh, there's a big building, and checked, and the door was unlocked. And I was like, all right, well, I'll see what's inside. And went inside and did a couple of 4x5 images in there in black and white, just based off of an assignment. And I was like, well, these are pretty cool. And then just started doing lots of interiors. And then whenever I need something to do, I do like go find a mausoleum and go in there. And some of them, the first couple of ones were just kind of, they're not terribly exciting. But then we were living in Chicago, and right after grad school, and I went to one of the mausoleums there, and it was like this huge mausoleum with like 3 levels, and it had all this vintage furniture in it. And I was like, well, this one's really cool. So I did some interiors in there, and I just kind of kept going from there. They just started looking really interesting. They're some of the mausoleums are a little bit more interesting than others. Some of them don't do too much for me, but being someone who likes to shoot color, I'm very much a color film person. So the one in Chicago was very colorful. There was a lot going on. The lights all crazy because you have the lights coming through all the different stained glass windows. And then it just kind of stuck. And I like to find them. I like to go in there. And it's a nice, quiet place to do photography, and no one's hardly ever in there. That's
wild. Okay.
Yeah.
But here's a big question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you shot anything in Cinestill 800T yet? Because,
I have not strayed from your just run-of-the-mill Fuji Kodak film. Back in the day, it was a lot of Fuji 400. Right now, I kind of like the Portrait 400 a lot. Not a fan of the Ektar 100. It's got like some sort of red magenta base to it that...
So Ektar comes out a little more blue-green than Portrait. Like, Portrait is a lot more temperate and warm.
See,
Ektar,
and maybe it's just...
kind of reminds me more Fuji.
It could be my scanner.
Oh, yeah, it could be
It could be my scanner. On my scanner with my equipment that I'm using, it always pops up with this weird magenta undertone to everything that I'm like, not a fan of that.
Yeah, because when I played with Ektar, it's mostly really highlighted the blues and greens. Like it reminded me a lot more of like Fuji kind of stuff. But you should really try a roll of 800 T sometime. Because, I mean, if it makes gas stations pop, imagine what it could do to a nice mausoleum.
Now, is the T for tungsten? Is it a tungsten?
Yeah, it's a tungsten film.
So I wonder what that would do with the daylight coming in, but it's coming through like some crazy stained glass windows. So who knows
I've shot it in daylight a ton, and I've actually liked how it comes out with it. Because so it's like Cinestill makes the film out of Vision 500. So it's a cinema film, and then they strip the remjet off of it. So when they do that, it makes it a little extra sensitive. Because when you shoot it, some of the light goes through the film, bounces off of the film back, and goes in again. So you get like this interesting halation on the lights. So that's why people.
And it's 800 speed. So how's the grain on that?
It's a decent grain to it. Like I've enjoyed playing around with it a ton. I mean, I brought it up facetiously because everyone likes to like jerk off about Cinestill and like gas stations and cars and stuff, but it's actually a really, really cool film, and I think with like the work you do, it could be interesting for you to play with.
Yeah, and especially because I mean, there's a lot of lamps in there, and those are all tungsten. So who knows what'll happen? Because sometimes it can be pretty yellow green. I gotta like fix that a little bit.
Yeah, so the lights on it get this really interesting, like almost like reddish, orangey glow to them, which is what people really like about it. Like it's, and it's also like for if you're doing night shots. Like there was this one photo I took at the Dallas State Fair, or sorry, the Texas State Fair in Dallas, in I think like 2018. And it was at nighttime in like this food court area, and it was just the light coming from the food court, some string lights, and there's this little old man that looks like he could be like from any time period. Like he looks like a sort of time traveler because there's all these modern people around him, and there's just like this little old man looks like he's straight up out of Up. But the different colored lights that were there were interesting because like the lights, like the fluorescent lights, gave off this like weird, like ethereal glow, and then the incandescents like had this like bright red kind of color to them, and it's a fun film.
That could be interesting. Yeah, because when I'm in the mausoleums, it runs the gamut of what kind of lights you're going to get. Sometimes there's fluorescent lights in there, then there's like lamps, and the natural light coming through all the different glass and stuff. It's kind of crazy in there. I never know I'm like, oh, this is going to look like this, and I'm like, and it comes back from the lab and I scan it. I'm like, well, that didn't look like I thought what I thought. Or I'm like, where the heck did that blue come from? I'm like, oh, this must have been a stained glass window somewhere. So
I don't know if anyone's ever asked you this question before, but have you caught a spirit on film yet?
I have not. Although I am open to it. I mean, they could come out to play anytime. I would be like, I was in this one mausoleum down the street from here, and there were some weird noises coming from behind a door. Oh. And I was like, if something comes out, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I haven't seen anything yet.
Stop, drop, and roll.
Oh, I would be like, I come in peace. Let's have a talk or something. I don't know what I would do. I'd probably really just shit my pants.
Just be like free hugs.
I know. I mean, I think I have seen a ghost before. So, and I've heard some pretty good ghost stories that people like swear by. Because I used to, when I lived in Memphis during grad school, I also gave as one of my little jobs. I gave tours at one of the Victorian houses. They had like 4 or 5 houses, and it's called the Victorian Village. And there was like this one or 2 houses that I gave. We give tours to people into the house, and always tell them the stuff that I'm not supposed to tell them, and jump the ropes and go up to the. You're like, no one's here. Let's go up to the parts we're not supposed to. But anyway, one of the girls that I worked with, she knew someone who worked in the Victorian house next door, which had a much weirder history than the one I worked at. The one I worked at, the lady supposedly had a still somewhere on the property during Prohibition, There was an elevator in her house that used to get stuck all the time. So she like kept a bottle of booze in the elevator in case she got stuck. There was a phone in there. She could call up someone like, come get me unstuck while I drink my booze. But anyway, the house next door, there was like some deaths of young children and then all sorts of crazy stuff. And supposedly, from what I hear, one of the employees and a friend of hers, there was like a couple of adults and then a couple of, adolescent kids or something. They were going to like spend the night in the house on some sort of anniversary of someone's death or something. And so the story goes, they swear it happened. At one point, the chandelier started like making a circle. They were feeling cold spots. And at first I think it was just like cold spots and everyone was like, this is creepy. There's a cold spot in an old house, And then apparently when the chandelier started swinging, the kids were like, let's get out of here. And they ran out. So there's weird thing. And I swear I've seen a ghost, although I could have been half asleep, so who knows. But have you ever like woken up or thought you woken up and saw something, but then you like really wake up?
I definitely like have come across some things and have had some weird experiences. The weirdest one, well, not the weird, but one of like the more memorable ones was I was in my house alone not long after my separation, and I was there with my dogs. I had the dogs that week, and I'm in the bathroom doing bathroom things, and I hear this like loud crashing noise and then just static, like TV static, like just so loud. And I was like, oh shit, and like, hurried up, got out of the bathroom, and I walk into the living room, and my two dogs are sitting in front of the TV, glued to just static on the screen.
They're here.
Kind of, and they're just like staring at it, and I'm trying to call them, and they're just like, they're glued to it, just staring at this screen, and like the stereo is cranked on, it's like, and they're just like focused on this, and I was like, okay, I unplugged all the shit. I'm like, we're gonna go for a car ride for like ever now. Let's go. Just got the fuck out of the house for a little bit, and I was just like, that was creepy. I've never felt anything in the house before that, but something was just like, what's up? How you doing? And I didn't like it.
Well, the house that I grew up in the suburbs outside of Atlanta, some neighborhood kids told us the people that lived there before, there had been some weird stuff going on. Now, I mean, teenage boys, are you going to believe them? I don't know. But anyway, they said there was some weird stuff had happened in that house beforehand. I was like, whatever. But I was laying in bed one time, and I'm pretty sure, I thought I was awake. Again, this could just be like some weird dream. But I remember waking up and looking over, and in the corner of my room, there was a figure of a tall, slender, kind of teenage boy man with his arms crossed, just like leaning up against the wall in the corner. And I was like, what? And it's like one of those things like, you kind of rub your eyes and then you look again, he's still there. And then I had like this whole body tingling everywhere, like, don't move, he won't know you're here kind of thing. And then after a couple of minutes, it was gone. So I don't know. It could have been a dream. It very well could have been a dream. Then again, maybe not.
I had a weird thing like that, and I'm pretty sure, because we're getting kooky here, so why not? I'll share it.
That's all right. My husband swears he's seen aliens, or alien UFOs.
That's where I'm going. When I was a teenager, living in Kimberly, it was a really weird, fucked up dream. I was like in like a Seinfeld cast thing, and all super weird shit going on with that part of the dream. But then I woke up to this guy that kind of looked like Darth Maul. And this was like years before that was like a fucking thing that like we all saw on screens, because it was like 1995, somewhere in there, 95, 96. And he's just like fucking staring at me at the foot of my bed with these like burning yellow eyes and this like weird cracked black and red skin. And he's just like pulling my blanket and bed sheets off And he's just like pulling them off, and I'm like paralyzed. I'm like, oh, is like pretending like he's not there, and he's just go away.
Like, don't move, he won't see me.
Yeah, and it was fucking terrifying. And I woke up from that. He wasn't there, but all of my shit was on the ground folded up. So it was like my blanket and like the sheets and all that were just on the floor, folded up. And I just like laid there, just not moving. Like the rest of the night. I was just like, whatever the fuck that was, it did something, and I don't like it. And I'm too young to understand this. And this was before like I started drinking and doing drugs, so it's like it wasn't that. You know, maybe it's why I started drinking and doing drugs, because you know, the drinking did start not long after the alien experience. So. Yeah,
well, my husband says that he was out on some like pond or lake or something with a friend of his, and they were like doing like night fishing or just sitting in a boat on a lake at night. Who knows? And he swears he was stone cold sober. And he said for like a full 8 minutes, there was just like one main thing with a bunch of lights on it, and a lot of little lights kept going, shooting in and out of this main thing for like 8 minutes, and then it took off. So.
Wow.
He swears up and down he's like, I'm not saying it was aliens or UFO, but it looked like a UFO.
Blink twice if you were probed.
I'm not asking him that. I don't want to know.
It's like, where did you learn that butt stuff thing from?
Certain things about him I don't ask. I'm like, you know what? Never mind. I don't want to know.
That's fair. I mean, we do live in a very interesting world. Like there's lots of stuff like energy and all those kinds of things that are kind of in it. Fireflies. So fireflies blew my fucking mind the first time I ever saw them. Because like I grew up in Canada, never really left it much. Western Canada, especially. And one of my first trips to the States, I went to Falls Church, Virginia, for some training.
Yeah.
And that was a weird experience because like we were getting trained in this office building that looked like some boiler room kind of shit, because like the office we were getting training in was literally the only tenant in like this huge like office tower thing. Like all of them were vacant, not done. And I was like, is this where we get like murdered or something? Like it was super weird. But me and this other Canadian who was Filipino too, he was from Toronto. We decided to go into DC that night and check things out. And we saw fireflies for the first time, and just the both of our mind, we're like, what the shit?
Lightning bugs.
Yeah. We'd never seen that shit. We're like, how is its ass on fire like that? Like, it's just, I understand why kids want to like trap them and kill them because they think it's cool.
Oh, there's it's dead lightning bugs in a jar is a very distinctive smell. It's a smell you'll remember. Dead lightning bugs in a jar. You never, like, because you catch the lightning bugs, you put them in the jar, you poke the hole, and you put them on your bedside table so you can, like, watch them blink, 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 but you never remember to set them free, and they're going to die, and then you open the jar, and it's a very distinctive smell.
Like what? Does it smell like almonds or something?
No, it smells like dead lightning bugs.
What would be, like, the closest smell you could associate dead lightning bugs to?
I mean, it's very earthy, a little musty. Just like just to kind of, it's kind of like if a dead bug smelled like a Band-Aid.
This sounds like something you could like market as like a men's cologne or something.
No, it doesn't smell like a dead lightning bug. It's not like a Band-Aid in a good way.
There's a Jim Bradford here says 100% can picture the smell, and I haven't caught them in at least 25 years.
Yeah, it's a very distinctive smell.
Wow. I wonder what maybe it's the phosphor or something in them?
I don't know. But they do. They smell like like an earthy, musty, dead bug mixed with Band-Aid. Yeah, because Band-Aids have a very distinctive smell.
Hey, I'm not going to say that I've smelled a Band-Aid before, but like, who
Did
hasn't?
you open the box? It smells like Band-Aid.
Yeah.
It's got that plasticky latex weird smell.
Yeah, they do have a weird smell to them.
Mm-hmm. Very distinctive.
Huh. You
We
learn
were
something new every
someplace.
day.
I know we were someplace. I don't know where we were, and I don't know what I was smelling, but I kept telling my husband, I'm like, I smell something that's very familiar, but I can't put my finger on it. I was like, oh, Band-Aids. It smells like Band-Aids.
Well, at least it didn't smell like burnt toast, because then you'd be having a seizure.
No, yeah, I know what that smells like. My husband's like, is something burning? And I'm like, it's the toast. Well, because we don't have a toaster, so I do it under the broiler in the oven, and sometimes I forget. And then all of a sudden you can smell it. I'm like, oh crap,
Dude,
yeah,
just
I did.
buy a toaster. That's so dangerous.
No. I make toast like every now and then. I'm not going to put a whole appliance on my counter just for the occasional piece of toast. You just put it under the broiler. It'll be fine if you just remember to flip it.
Get a toaster oven then.
I don't need that. No, it's too. I'm already. I'm on a kick right now that I don't appreciate. There's too many appliances out there right now that can do things that humans can do for themselves. I'm like, I saw a self-cleaning water bottle the other day. I'm like, can you not just get a brush and some soap?
But I want to just push a button.
Do you not know how to clean your own water bottle? And you need a self-cleaning water bottle with a UV light on it. No, we don't need that. I don't need a toaster oven.
There's a lot of people with bacterial infections out of there that could do well with a self-cleaning water bottle.
Just clean your water bottle. You can do it. I promise it doesn't take long. But no, there was not too long ago, my husband was like, I smell something burning. And then he looked out in the yard. He was like, what is that little piece of square black thing on the patio? Because I had burnt the toast and it was stinking up the house, but I didn't have anywhere to put it. So I just flung it in the backyard for a hot minute. And I was just like, well, I'll just let it cool off out there. And he was like, I smell something burning. And then I looked outside and I saw toast in the yard. And I was like, yeah, that's about right. That's who I live with. That's who I married. The chick that forgets the toast in the oven and then just flings it in the backyard.
The math checks out.
Nobody wanted it. The birds and the squirrels wanted nothing to do with it.
So I learned an interesting way that vegan pizza is not good the next day. So it's like regular pizza is fantastic for like several days later. It can always be good. Vegan pizza is a hard no. It's just...
Because, the cheese is just oil.
I don't know what happened. Like, I've had some really good vegan pizza, and I bought this from like a really good vegan pizza place here in Toronto, and they had this really cool sale on. So I was like, oh, whatever, I'll get some for like tomorrow, kind of thing. Because you think pizza lasts. Holy fuck! It was just like
what
ruthless.
Does that taste like?
It just like I don't know, hobo dick cheese. Like it was fucking terrible. Like I was so excited to like eat this pizza, and I bit into it, and it was just like, I just let it drool out of my face because I was like, this is terrible, and I threw it out. And Toronto has so many fucking raccoons. They're everywhere. They're brazen. They fucking love like trash pandas are just. There's something to behold, especially here in Toronto. And I threw like 4 slices of this pizza out. And I wake up in the morning to go to work, and on top of my garbage can is the baggie that I put the pizza in. And it was so bad the raccoons didn't even want it.
They're like, we can't eat this.
Because they open it up, because they have opposable thumbs and all that. They open up the baggie, and there's like little nibbles, but they just left it there. It was just like one piece. No. They're like,
so
no.
Bad.
And I was like, wow, this is telling. This is interesting. Like, not even trash pandas want to eat this shit the day after.
It's like, this is too much. They've gone too far with this fake cheese. Well, I live in St. Louis right now, and I guess we're famous for some cheese that's not really a cheese, but is a cheese. It's called Provel. I think it's called Provel cheese.
What the fuck is that?
I don't know. I don't think anyone really knows. It's a St. Louis mystery. I don't know. It's very oily. It's like shredded oily Velveeta, but it's a white color. So it's like cheese, but it's not really cheese. And they put it on pizza here. And there's a time and a place for Provel. I'm not going to like completely trash on it because it is stringy and melty, and that all that good stuff. In moderation, it can be kind of interesting, but for the most part, it's gross. And there's a pizza chain here that's like famous for the Provel cheese. And this is the second time we've lived in St. Louis, and I swear we were walking past it this evening on our walk, and my husband's like, "You gotta have some of this before we ever leave again." And I'm like, no. I was like, no. I was like, I will live and die by the fact that I lived in St. Louis twice, and I have yet to have one of those pizzas. I refuse to eat it.
You've never had it?
I've had the Provel cheese, but at a different place. There's a place called Emo's Pizza that's like, it's a St. Louis thing. And
does their like mascot have like hair over like one side of their face and be like, "You don't understand, I'm going in my room."
I'm emo. I'm in. Yeah, it's a very sad cheese. So it's a very sad cheese. I have yet to have one of those pizzas. I've had the cheese. I've had the Provel cheese, but I haven't had that particular brand of pizza. And I flat out refuse. There's a lot of St. Louis things that I'll eat, but I'm not eating that.
What other things is St. Louis known for food-wise?
Toasted ravioli, which is fucking fantastic.
Okay, that sounds fucking amazing.
Yes, toasted ravioli is amazing. Pork steak is a thing. I've never heard of pork steak. Yeah.
The fuck is the pork steak?
I don't really know. I think I had it once. It's just like, it's a weird, big, flat pork chop that looks like a steak.
That sounds kind of sad.
Yeah, I think it's a outdoor grilling kind of thing.
Okay.
Pork steak, toasted ravioli. There's this thing called gooey butter cake, which is foul. It
sounds fucking
too much.
terrible.
It apparently, I think the history of it is like someone was making a cake and they didn't do the ingredients right and they kind of like screwed it up and they're like, "Ooh, this is good." So it's like gooey butter cake. It's awful. I can't stand it.
I mean, with a name like that,
It's
it
a
just
little
sounds
much.
like no. Like that sounds like a no.
It's like a brownie gone terribly wrong.
Ugh. The toasted, so Ryan, I'm seconding this. He says toasted ravioli sounds amazing. I have to agree.
Oh, yeah. It's absolutely amazing. And then there is our pride and joy of Route 66, which is the Ted Drew's frozen custard, which you either hate it or you like it, but it's fucking fantastic and completely underrated, because the only reason why I say Ted Drew's is underrated, because people will say Ted Drew's is overrated. When they go to Ted Drew's, there's a thing called like the concrete, which is like a Dairy Queen Blizzard. You know, you put the frozen custard and you put all bunch of stupid shit in there and you swirl it around, and then you eat this giant container of it and then go into a diabetic coma, because it's just too much. You don't put more sugar on top. It's like sugar on sugar on sugar on sugar. That's awful. It's disgusting. I refuse to eat those. The only thing that I will eat at the Ted Drew's, which is the best thing on earth, is the $1. Used to be $1.20, and then it was $1.40. Now I think it's $1.70. But it's just a simple cone. It's just $1. It's $1.70 cone. It's the right amount of frozen custard. It's on the cone, and it's just frozen custard. None of that crazy bullshit that people throw in there. And it is the best frozen custard cone on the planet. And I will die on that hill.
What's the difference between frozen custard and ice cream? Is it just the same thing?
Well, frozen custard is going to be more like a soft serve ice cream, but I think the fat and egg, there's more dairy fat and eggs in the frozen custard, as opposed to like a soft serve ice cream is just going to be like milk and sugar and some emulsifiers of some sort.
Random chemicals, so it goes down in the sweetest way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and there's one on Route 66, because Route 66 runs through St. Louis, and then the original one is off in some slightly sketchy neighborhood. So
those are the best places to get food, though.
Oh yeah, we went to this barbecue restaurant, I think in Richmond, Virginia area when we were there, and it's not in Richmond, it's in a town outside of Richmond, but in that general area. And we were in this town and we're like, we're hungry, let's look for some barbecue to go eat. And you get on the Google and you're looking around, and we saw this one barbecue place that looked really sketchy. And the first review was, you're going to walk in and you're going to want to leave. But don't do it. Don't leave. You're going to want to, but don't do it. So we got there, we walked in, and we're like, we want to leave. They were true. You want to leave. Because you walk in, and the floor kind of goes up and down, and I swear to God, the layer upon layers of barbecue grease was the only thing holding this building together. Like, if you went in there and did a deep clean, it would probably just dissolve. Because the floor was sketchy, the walls were unsavory, and you could see the guy back there in this like makeshift kind of kitchen, because it was an old house. It was like this old tiny little kitchen, and he wasn't making the barbecue back there. He made the barbecue someplace else, but
Okay.
he was putting the sandwiches together, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. This feels wrong on so many levels, but it was hands down the best barbecue sandwich I've ever had.
Nice.
It was fantastic. It melted in your mouth. I mean, I know you were talking about vegan cheese, so you probably don't want to hear this, but it was like,
I'm not a vegan.
okay.
Yeah. No, I love bacon way too much. Pigs are cute and they're so smart, but they're also so delicious. Like,
yes, they're goddamn tasty.
and people are like, well, would
Sorry.
you eat your dog? And I'm like, if my dog tastes as good as bacon, yeah, probably.
I mean, if the apocalypse comes and I had a dog and I was hungry, I'd be like, your time has come.
But I mean, I've also seen what they've eaten, and it's like, I don't know.
I don't know. I always fed my dog organic dog food, so it probably tastes really good.
Well,
But I would never in a million years, under normal circumstances.
later in
eat
life,
my-
they got fed much better things. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
the stuff we fed our dogs growing up was just trash. So-
Literally, like, yeah,
Yeah.
probably toxic.
But it was a really good barbecue sandwich. I mean, it really was. It really was. I don't think it's open anymore. I don't think it's there, which is a shame because I totally go back.
Nice.
So because if you think about it, I mean, it's like so hip to eat food out of a fucking truck, but people won't go into a dive restaurant. I'm like, that makes no sense.
At least they have like a washroom with running water in those places. Like, yeah.
I know, you're like, you'll eat off this truck full of car fumes, but
This restaurant's not clean enough for me.
This is just disgusting. This is.
But it was probably one of the grossest place physically that I've ever eaten in, but it was absolutely the best barbecue sandwich ever.
Nice. There's so much good food down there. Like, I did a small road trip on the Route 66 a few years back from like Kansas City down to Tulsa, and so many interesting places that we hit up there. I had my first Frito pie, which kind of blew my fucking mind.
I'm not a big fan of Fritos, but I would definitely do a Frito pie.
I'm not a huge fan of Fritos either, but like with that chili and like the other stuff in there, I was just like, okay, this, I would shove this in my face hole several times.
Oh yeah, I mean, at some point we're gonna move back to the South somewhere, and I can't wait to live in a place where you can get a meat and three, which is a very Southern thing. You go into a restaurant, you can like pick a meat, and then you can pick 3 vegetables, and they bring it out to you, and it's fantastic. And peach cobbler is always listed under the vegetables. You gotta love it. So
Peach cobbler is a vegetable?
yeah, you go in and literally they'll be like, here are 4 different meats that you can choose from. Here are the vegetables or the 3s, and then you get a choice of like biscuit or cornbread. But you'll see like vegetable, mac and cheese, vegetable, peach cobbler. I mean, it's just all listed under, and it says vegetables, but you look down the list and there's peach cobblers just hanging out.
I don't know why it's just making me think of Wilford Brimley when he's like, diabetes.
Diabetes. Oh, the South. I mean, yeah, it's yeah. I mean, it's.
I had a really interesting thing happen this morning. I took an Uber to go to my new work office here in Mississauga, and I was having an interesting conversation with my Uber driver, who turned out to be a photographer too. So he's asking questions about. I had like my F5 with me, and then he was like, little brief detour, but like couple blocks that way up that street there is a little bungalow where Colonel Sanders used to live. That's where he retired and he lived out the rest of his years, was in a little bungalow there. And he sold off all of his interests in the North American in the American KFC. Mm-hmm. He sold that off, but they retained him as their spokesperson for a while. But they let him go when he started shitting on the quality of their food publicly. He was just like, ever since I quit, it tastes like goddamn wheat paste now. It's like, this is terrible.
It's pretty disgusting. It's awful. I can't. KFC.
I remember the gravy used to be good though when I was a kid. It used to be so good.
Oh, we ate the fuck out of that shit when I was a kid.
Did you ever drink it out of the thing when you were a little kid? I did.
The gravy? No, but
I totally did that.
Well, no, you put it on the mashed potatoes, and then whatever you had left was like.
I would just shove chicken in my mouth and be like, ah.
Oh my God.
There's a reason I'm a chubby boy now.
I mean, I used to eat the fuck out of those chocolate parfait things. Those things were delicious. Man. I think I ate one probably about 10 years ago, and I was like, this isn't the same. And I don't know if it was the fact that it wasn't the same or just I wasn't a 12-year-old child anymore and didn't think it was that fantastic.
Ariel is like, we poured that shit on rice. Yeah, Filipino people fucking loved KFC back, and I think they still do. That'd always be like
rice and gravy is a southern thing. That will be under the list of vegetables as well. It's going to be a white gravy though, not a brown gravy.
Sausage gravy kills me. That sausage and biscuits.
It's delicious.
Oh my God. I'm lucky I don't live in the States because I would have had a heart attack by now. It's just, yeah.
And this is how you can tell. This is the stupidest conversation. But this is how you can tell a real sausage gravy from the powdered package stuff, because you can get it powdered in a package and you add the milk and you boil it up and you've got gravy, and that's foul. If you're eating sausage and biscuits and gravy, and the gravy is actually white, like a bright white, that's wrong. It's gotta be beigey or have a dirty color to it. Yeah. If it's white, it's not the real thing. Don't eat it.
If it's disgusting. White going in, it's probably going to be white going out, which is alarming.
Oh, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good.
I learned that the hard way with Campbell's chowder soup. I thought I was dying. I went to my doctor because I was just something bad happened.
Oh, we're really going off the rails here. This is no longer about photography at all.
We'll bring it back.
We'll circle around. Let's talk about color a little bit. I took a shit once, and when I wiped and checked things out, you gotta check out the color every now and then, make sure things are fine. Yeah. You gotta be and plus you gotta keep looking to make sure, the toilet paper is just toilet paper at some point.
Exactly. Yeah, that's important.
So I took a crab and I wiped and I looked at it, and it was the color of a green crayon.
You ate a cake, didn't you?
I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? What has happened? And I was thinking about what I ate. Well, the day before, for breakfast, I had eaten some Fruity Pebbles. And then for lunch, I had eaten some Fruity Pebbles. And for dinner, I had eaten some Fruity Pebbles. So over the course of the day, for all three meals, it was nothing but Fruity Pebbles. So yeah, the next day, I was shitting a green crayon. At first I was like, what? And then I realized, I was like, yeah, that checks out. That checks out. I'm good. I think I'll be all right. An entire box in one day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's Fruity Pebbles. Fucking love Fruity Pebbles.
Apparently.
When we lived here the first time, there was a deli down the street, and they would make the marshmallow Rice Krispies, but with Fruity Pebbles.
Oh, shit.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be amazing.
I ate the fuck out of that.
Blue icing will also have the same result.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I can see that.
Very alarming.
Let me check.
Yeah. Ariella says TP equals contact sheet. I mean, it's not wrong.
Well, I mean, this has really gotten a little too personal, perhaps. But I mean, everyone always says TMI, TMI, and my first name is Trish, so I'm like, Trish must inform. I understand it is
There you
TMI,
go.
but Trish must inform.
Well-
I have to warn you. Don't eat an entire box of Fruity Pebbles and expect to have normal shit the next day. Not gonna happen. We should probably check. Ariella, are you okay? Are you okay over there? I might have.
I mean, this is not knowledge that I ever needed to know, but I appreciate that I now know to never eat a complete box of Fruity Pebbles and expect to have a normal dookie the next day.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, I highly recommend eating an entire box of Fruity Pebbles in one day. It was fantastic. I enjoyed every minute of it. It just was concerning.
What scares the shit out of me sometimes, it's like, no, I'm not okay. I really love red beets. Like, they're fucking
tastes
delicious.
like dirt. It's disgusting.
I kind of like the dirt taste, though. I don't know, but I really love beets, but then I always forget, like, it's like a murder scene the next day.
That's alarming.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking to a girl. Don't talk to me about a murder scene in your underpants.
Beets
You have
do it.
no idea. You have no idea what that's like.
I could imagine. Yeah.
I mean, it's a crime scene.
like
mean,
when you pull your
anymore.
underpants down, it's like dun dun.
It's like, who died? Something bad happened down there. But I don't have to worry about that now because, menopause. It's a fun time. It's fun.
No?
No.
Not fun.
No. Well, I mean, it's all right. I don't have a period anymore. That part I enjoy.
That's
I can.
exciting.
Yeah. Well, oh, yeah. It's a good time to have a dried up uterus right now. Because it's a scary world out there. It's not good down here.
So I was talking about this with a friend recently, and just with like all of the very opinionated freedom fighters out there as of late, let's call them. And we both came to the conclusion that we don't wish ill will upon people at all, and we don't wish ill will towards them at all. But, couldn't they just get raptured? They're doing such a good job. They're doing the Lord's work. Could the Lord just, give them the treat that they're expecting and just make them poof to whatever next level there is, and then leave the rest of us heathens down here to deal with our debauchery and being degenerates and all of that. And
it is just, it's insane. I mean, my thing is like, why do you care? What do you care? It doesn't affect, if you don't agree with abortion, then just don't have one. But I mean, I just don't, I cannot wrap my brain about why you care so much about. And it's not that. It's not even about that. It's all about control and power.
Yeah, control, power, marginalizing. If only we could find a way to like harness the power of male butthurt, that would be like the most renewable resource
male
possible.
What? Butthurt?
Yeah, male butthurt. Because like a lot of all this bad shit is driven by like, egotistical males that think they're very powerful and have been upset about something, and it causes this butthurt that makes them react in such a negative way to like, lash out at that thing that upset them so much, like, allowing someone autonomy over their body. Like, what an awful idea.
It's just all about money. Until you take the money out of politics, politics will always be about money. There's just no way around it.
Well, not even the money part of it. I think like,
but it is kind of a money part because they all have special interests, and the only thing they're doing is trying to drive the price of whatever they have their toe in.
But they do it for the people.
No. Yeah. Hardly any politicians do it for the people. On either side. I'm saying both sides are just as guilty.
Oh, all of them are terrible. Like, we're not immune to this kind of shit in Canada either. And when we had our last election...
people like crap on the U.S., but the UK Parliament, they're watching porn in there.
Good for
them. Did you see
them.
that? Over in the UK, all these guys are getting caught watching porn when they're in Parliament. I think that's what I heard.
Well, okay, so like, I've worked in IT for a long time, and before I became a
I could be
corporate
wrong.
shell-
Don't quote me on that. The internet, don't come for me. I swear to God, I read a headline.
It's too bad they're already going to dox you for it. Like, the male butthurt has been alerted to your
That's
transgression
you. You
towards
said
them.
that, man. I don't know anything to do. I was just over here talking about green shit.
Green poop. When I used to work in IT and we used to like monitor like traffic and stuff, there's an alarming amount of pornography that gets consumed during the workday in like almost all places. Like it's
Places that know that you can see what's on their computer screen, folks are still watching porn.
oh yeah.
That's bonkers.
And then people find ways around it. So it's like I used to work in healthcare, and so we blocked all the porno and like public portals and stuff like that because you don't need a bunch of people jerking off at public kiosks in the middle of the night because they need to like get off. And there was this very tenacious old man in a northern part of British Columbia who discovered he can no longer get his pornography to like jerk off in the middle of the night at the public internet kiosk near the nurses station, which also disturbed the nurses, obviously. So he was upset about that until he discovered a loophole in Bing.com. So maybe it's fixed by now. This was a few years back. But if you go to Bing.com and search porno stuff and you see the little video thumbnails, he'd hover over the video thumbnail and it would show like a little preview of it that would come through. So this old man was jerking off to like 5-second previews.
I can't even wrap my brain around that.
Like that's some
Can you
determined.
imagine back in the day, when they had like the little peep show things? Like let's at least take it back to film a little bit.
Yeah.
You had the like little nickel slot things, and you had to like. I mean, if you're doing this with one hand, that's.
Oh my
that's
god!
talent.
So you got to think so that brings up another interesting point. Is like scientists are worried that we as people are losing our dexterity because we aren't doing finely skilled work as much anymore. So there's a distinct possibility future generations won't have people that could be like neurosurgeons and stuff like that because we're just becoming fat-fingered fucks. And the dexterity required to operate one of those machines. That's almost like the, pat your, like rub your belly and pat your head.
Yeah.
Or like maybe
I just can't imagine.
maybe like, these dudes would get together and be like, hey bro, no homo, but like if you turn the crank for me while I turn my crank, I'll do it for you back, huh?
I'm out. That's well, hey, sometimes you just have to lend a hand to your fellow man.
But this goes so bringing it back to photography in an odd way. This makes me like wonder. It's like I've been very curious, and we've touched on this in other chats. What was the first photographic dick pic that ever happened, and like, how did they accomplish that? Was it a tintype? Did they send a glass plate? Like, because I know that they used to do like paintings, so people would send like dick pic paintings to like people abroad. So,
I don't know.
And like,
I'm sure there are some. I've luckily never have seen them.
and I just want to know who thought of this idea in the beginning, that it's like a good idea to send such a...
Some nudie pics?
Well, not even a nudie pic, because it's like, just like... just,
I don't know, but no one wants to see that. I don't know. Nobody wants to. Well, I guess
jarring.
some people do want to see that. I
have one, and I don't even really want to see that, like, the best of times, so it's like, man, I don't get the appeal. But, you ever do any selfies with your Hasselblad?
I've done self-portraits. I don't know if I've done a selfie in the true sense of a selfie. I mean, I did post that. I have the one picture of
I like that
myself
one.
in the mirror in the bathroom in the mausoleum. I guess that technically is a selfie. But I think the only actual self-portraits I've done is I've done someone in 4x5 we had to do a self-portrait, and you know what, I wasn't smart enough to be like, oh, I could do this in a mirror. No, I set the thing up and just, you know, like had the long cord and went around the camera, sat in the chair, you know, clicked it, got back up, you know, did the whole. I wasn't smart enough to be like, you could have just done that in the mirror, fool. I didn't even think about that. I never even thought about that until I got on Instagram. I'm like, oh, they're taking pictures in the mirror. That's interesting.
So you'd been shooting for decades before that even became an idea.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even know the whole film thing on Instagram was a thing until the pandemic. I had no clue. I mean, I knew what Instagram was. Obviously, I had Instagram, my personal Instagram account, but I didn't know people were like shooting film. I was like, they still make film? I should get in on this. I'm like, people are posting film pictures. I'm like, oh, gas stations. I've got those.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, people are doing gas stations or stuff at night. I'm like, I've got that. I was like, I want to play. So I plugged the scanner back in and started doing some stuff. And I was like, okay, that's enough cars. That's enough gas stations. I think, folks.
As long as
We're
Sue Still
good.
is making film, there's always going to be cars and gas stations.
I mean, hey, I like a vintage car and a gas station just as much as the next person. But there's other things out there as well.
No.
Many, 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 many other things. And if they're not going to, I mean, they'll probably will come for me for that, but.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Sorry.
Male gazy photos. So it's like gas stations and cars and like obvious male gaze photos. Like that's, you know, what everyone likes, right?
There's enough. Unless you can put a new spin on it somehow, that's enough. There's enough. And
someone should
I
do.
say that, but I tell you what, I will be posting some car pics on my other account fairly recently.
Oh, you have another account. Do you want to pimp that one out when you have a chance?
It's if you look on this account, the Octavia Sharp photography account, it says in the little bio thing that I have a B-side account called Beating the Bulldozer, which is what when I was in grad school, my professors like to tell me, you know, you got to get beyond the beating the bulldozer, because a lot of my photos were abandoned things, dilapidated things, you know, drive out in the country. There's an old dilapidated church. Let's take a picture of that. There's this old, you know, pharmacy or gas station or a weird vintage rusty car. Yeah, all that stuff that, you know, is eventually one day a bulldozer is going to come in and tear it down. So they were always like, oh, you're beating the bulldozer. And they used to make fun of me all the time. So.
Well, that's mean of them.
But they had a point.
That's fair.
They had a point. I mean, you can take as many pictures of old barns as you want to, but, you know, I think Eggleston and Christenberry, they filled that gap for us. We don't need to go back and revisit something that someone's already done.
That's very true, yeah.
Way better than any of us are ever going to do. Let's face the facts. So.
Yeah.
So. It's like that, you know, and then for the longest time, I was like, why is everyone, what is it, Roy's Cafe or something? Like,
oh, yeah.
What the fuck? Why is everybody on earth taking a picture of this? I'm like, I get it. It's cool. But it seemed like everybody had their own version of it. And then the other day I was looking through, like, I think one of my old Stephen Shore books. I'm like, oh, there it is. That's why. It's like
everyone wants to pay homage.
Okay, I think that homage has been paid. Move along, folks.
It'll go on and on.
Oh,
and
they're
on.
coming for me on that one, I'm sure. Whatever.
They're coming to take you away.
I know. They're going to be like,
That bitch and her dead people. Shut up.
whatever.
Barb asks, what scanner do you use?
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah. Not to be an asshole. When I talk about, I don't like to talk about gear too much. I mean, I will, but I always feel like a wiener. But I have a super cool Scan 9000.
Oh, shit. Look at that. That's a flex.
I know. Yeah, I have a Hasselblad that's green, and I have a super cool Nikon Scanner 9000.
And you have a
Yeah.
Honeywell.
And I have a Honeywell Pentax 6x7, which the Honeywell Pentax 6x7 is not the flex that it should be because that thing's got some issues.
Wow.
So I have to work around. I have to figure out what exactly it can do so I can work around it. But and then in here I've like crapped on cars, and I'm gonna be posting some cars with my 6x7 in a week or so. But yeah, I have a what's it called? The Nikon Super Cool Scan 9000. But in my defense, not that I needed defense, I did purchase it in 2007.
Okay. So it was like
So-
moderately cheap.
It was $1,800 in 2007.
So that's like, what, $10,000 in 2022 money?
I don't know. Someone said they bought one. What's his name? The Kyle McDougal. Is that his name? Kyle McDougal something.
That sounds familiar,
Yeah, I think he's got a following. But I think I saw one of his videos where he bought one still in the package. And don't quote me on this, but I want to say he paid like $3,000 for that one. And then someone else that I talked to on Instagram, they said they bought one, and I want to say they paid $1,800 for theirs secondhand at a shop somewhere that works on them. So, but yeah, so they've held their value. If I wanted to sell it, I could probably get what I paid for it, but I'm not gonna. But yeah, it's like I bought it in 2007, and every time I turn it on, I'm like, is it dead? Is it gonna work today? Is today the day it shits the bed? Because when that scanner, that's the only scanner I've ever had, the only scanner I've ever used. I don't even know anything about any other scanners. That's just the one I have. And one of these days it's probably gonna shit the bed, and then I'm gonna curl up in the corner and cry and not know what to do with my life.
Well, you're gonna have to like go on eBay and like drop another $5,000 on something that might break your heart.
I know, or I'll have to. I think I have it written down somewhere. The place that the person bought theirs here in the States somewhere, and I think they work on them too. So I'll just have to make a road trip and see if they can revive it. But I'm just hoping it never dies.
Yeah, you should just like name it something from the Goonies, because Goonies never die.
Goonies never die. When we were living in Portland, we went up to Astoria to visit the Goonie house. And, you know the Cyndi Lauper song where she's like, it's good enough.
Good enough, yeah, for you.
Yeah. My husband thought she was saying Goonie love. It's Goonie love for you. It's Goonie love. I'm like, and he's over there singing it, Goonie love. And I'm like, because of course we were listening to the song as we were driving to the Goonie house, because that's what you do when you go to Astoria. You got to go see all the Goonie sites.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you think she's saying? And he's like, Goonie love. I'm like, that's not what she's saying. But that's adorable that you thought she was saying Goonie love. Now try to listen to the song and not think that she's saying Goonie love. You just can't.
Well, and now I'm thinking there was a huge missed opportunity here for Weird Al.
This is true.
Yeah.
You could have done something with Goonie love.
Weird Al, if you're listening,
Let's give him a call.
you should do it. I wish I had his number. That would be amazing.
I don't have his number.
You
I don't know any famous people.
I've met a few famous people. They're interesting.
I've met some famous photographers, but I don't.
Ooh. What kind of
I
famous
have-
photographers?
There is a gentleman, Arno Minkinen, who does self-portraits in a landscape. He's fairly well known because when I was in grad school, I was the president of the Photography Society, and as president, I got to we would invite different photographers to come and speak and whatnot. So I met him and drove around Memphis and hung out with him for the day because then as a president you had to talk to people and show them around. But I don't know if I know him. I've met him. So we're just talking about met. So I saw William Christenberry give a talk once.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, he was fairly old and was like repeating himself a little bit. So I was like, oh, man. But so I have a book of his signed to me from William Christenberry. So William Christenberry, I have a terrible, terrible, terrible memory, but I've met Alex Harris as well.
Cool.
And I have a couple of books of his signed to me as well. So I think those are I met Pinky Bass. I just watched her give a lecture on a Zoom. I've gone the whole pandemic, never downloaded Zoom. I had to download Zoom like a couple of weeks ago so I could watch this lecture.
Shit. Lucky you. A lot of us have had to live on Zoom during the pandemic.
Yeah, I was working at a vet clinic, and that was like, this is not a good place to be during the pandemic because they were kind of slow at getting the protocols in order. And it was like at the very, very beginning when everyone was just like losing their shit, understandably so.
Yeah.
And I was like, and at that point, my husband was working from home already. So I just quit my job and I haven't gone back yet. So
that's fair.
Because all my jobs have been very dealing with the public, customer service kind of stuff. So I got to wait for it to die down.
That's
more
fair.
Before I go back. So
well, I don't have any fancy books signed like that. I do have a Fred Herzog book that's signed to Henry. That's kind of cool.
I have 3 signed Eggleston books, not to anybody, just his signature. I've never met Eggleston. I've tried stalking him a few times when I lived in Memphis.
Okay.
But harmless stalking, harmless. I mean, it's
like,
not my biggest fan. Is it stalking if his house is on the way to the grocery store?
I mean, it depends on how long you linger around his house on your way to
I could have gone the fast way. I could have gone to a different grocery store, but I would go to this one particular grocery store so I could specifically drive past his house, or at least what I was told was his house.
I think as long as you didn't fog the glass of his windows with your breath.
I did.
Not stalking.
No, I'm pretty sure there's guns in there. I'm not going to do that.
Yes, I forget that about America. So it's like one time when I was in Denton, I ended up verbally.
Oh, there's guns there.
Oh, there's lots of guns there.
I saw Jason Lee at a music festival. I was like, there he is.
He gave me an interesting shoulder up in Tulsa once.
Cool.
He's a neat guy.
Is he? He seems like an interesting person. I've never met him. I did have a brief conversation with his wife because I was like, I really liked her dress. And so I talked about her dress for a hot second. And then I skedaddled out of there. She's
really sweet.
She seemed very nice. I was like, can I take a picture of your dress? Because I really like it. She's like, that's fine. I said, thank you. Now I'm leaving.
Yeah, I saw his... he did an exhibition in Tulsa a few years back, and it was alongside a Larry Clark exhibition, which was also pretty fucking cool.
That's good.
Yeah, it was. I liked Tulsa a lot. It was really interesting. He's really nice, surprisingly. I met him in Boston in 2018. We talked about this a couple episodes, but as in a shit place, and decided to spend some money to go on this trip to Boston because he was doing a book signing for a Plainview because he just released a Plainview, and then the second day was a photo workshop with him. And Barbara, who was on here, Barb was down there, and that's where I met her. And it was pretty cool. Then I immediately panicked though after buying the ticket, being like, what if he's an asshole and it like completely ruins how I feel about his work? Because he's like a big inspiration for my own stuff. And I almost like canceled because I was like, no, I would never meet your heroes kind of thing. And yeah, he turned out...
That's a true statement.
Yeah, it is. But, you know, with Jason Lee, he was actually a really cool hero to meet. And, you know, he's an interesting cat. Yeah, kind of kooky guy. But I met his friend Armand, who owns the Denton Camera Exchange in Denton on that Boston trip. And Armand and I have become good pals. I love that guy so much. And spent a couple Policons with him. There was one where I stayed with him, and he was talking about like concealed carry. And I didn't really think much of it. And then we got to his place, and I was like, you know, sitting on my bed in the living room. And then he walks in the living room, he's like, check this out. And he like walks in like this. And he's got an AR-15 in one hand and an AK-47 in the other. And he looks like some fucking Lord of War or something. And I was just like, holy shit, man. He's like, yeah, these are just a couple of them. I'm like, fuck, I'm in Texas, that's for sure. And so he's like showing me all these like crazy guns. And then he's like, or I mentioned, I'm like, he said something about concealed carry, but these are very conspicuous. Like, you can't fucking, you know, wander. He's like, no, these aren't the concealed carry. And then he reaches in the front of his pants and he's like, this is. And I'm like,
Groovy.
all day. We've been hanging out all day and you've just had this like fucking gun next to your dick? Like, what the shit? He's like, yeah, it's Texas. Everyone's got a gun. And it blew my fucking mind being this like little Canadian kid in Texas being like, what the shit? And I'm telling this to, Handsome Zane on Instagram works for Armand sometimes, and he's in the store, and I'm telling him, like, yeah, and then Armand pulls his fucking gun out of his pants, and Zane's like, what, like this? And he pulls a fucking gun out of his pants. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Well, we were living in Texas during, was it 2016 election, the when Hillary was running. And
but her emails,
whatever. And so we're in the suburbs of Dallas, Texas, and I was like, I'm a Democrat. I'm going to vote for Hillary, and everybody had political signs everywhere, and I'm like, I'm not putting a Hillary sign in my yard because that just screams that's the house that doesn't have a gun. Yeah. And I'm like, no. I'll let them assume whatever they want. But you can't, I mean, if you're in Texas and you put a Hillary sign in, odds are you probably don't have a gun. You might, because it is Texas, but...
I mean, I wanted a gun after that experience. I felt left out. Because I'm like, well, fucking everyone else has got a gun. Why? And they're like, yeah, they're cheap. It's like $200. And I'm like, I have $200.
Well, we were at my grandparents' house one Christmas, and my uncle, I mean, there's guns all in that house, and... my uncle was like, here's your inheritance when I die. And he had like these two little guns, and like one for me and one for my sister. I'm like, I'm good, man. But he did have a 6-shooter, so I shot the 6-shooter once, and I'm like, I'm good. And then he was going, I was like, I'm good. That's just too much. That's dangerous. You shouldn't give this to me. And then he was gonna let me shoot the tiny one because the 6-shooter was a little too much for me. And it was loaded, and he handed it to me, and I'm pretty sure he took the safety off. And when he handed it to me, I dropped it, and when it hit the ground, it was like pointed at my foot. Luckily, it didn't go off, and I was like, I'm out. Well, the minute he handed me the 6-shooter, my mom and my husband ran in the house, and they were like peeking through the window, like, he gave that one a gun? Oh my God, we're all gonna die. And then, so yeah, I shot. And then when he handed me the small pistol thing, and I dropped it on the ground, loaded at my foot. I didn't even pick it up. I just like, I'm done. I'm going inside. I will never.
But isn't that your God-given right through the First Amendment that everyone has a gun there? Like, it's like protected, right?
Well, and I mean, I have nothing against people having guns because when the government comes for us, some of us need to have some guns.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, some of us should probably have guns, but I shouldn't have one because, well, you shouldn't ever give a loaded gun to someone who has never gone to a gun safety course.
That's
Obviously.
fair. I mean, that's a good tip. So, a couple of big takeaways from our chat so far. If you eat a whole box of Fruity Pebbles,
Yes.
you're going to have weird poop.
And don't hand me a loaded gun.
And don't hand anyone who hasn't taken gun safety a gun. So,
well, and I mean, and some comedian was like, yeah, when they wrote that, the guns were like,
yeah, not like, yeah.
It took you a good, minute to 2 minutes to reload from the one single buckshot or something. It wasn't like 20 rounds in a second, so.
Yeah, I mean, like, if we still had muskets, school shootings would be very anticlimactic.
I mean, yeah. Because the accuracy on those things are probably shit as well anyway. Who knows?
Terrible.
It's just terrible. It is terrible. I mean, that is just so, that's bonkers too.
All of it's bonkers.
Which is crazy because when I was in high school, that never, I mean, either I just never watched the news or it never occurred to me that someone would come in and start taking us out.
We never had that in my school, but we did, for the years I was in high school, have the most bomb threats per capita in our province.
Oh my God, that's insane. I mean, if I had to go to high school right now, I would just be like every day like,
well, so here's the thing though.
What's going on?
I grew up in a town of like 5,000 people. It was super tiny. And the bomb threats would just be if someone didn't want to go to school that day, they'd just phone in a bomb threat because they knew that the school had to take every threat seriously because, you never know. So it's like, oh, I'm afraid of a test that I didn't study for today. Bomb threat. And so it's just...
That's insane. And then when all the shootings became so rampant in the last 10 years or so, it seems, I was like, okay, well, I'm not in school anymore, so I guess I'm okay there. And I don't go to malls or big festivals or big music festivals. But then when we were living in Texas, someone opened fire at a garlic festival. I was like, really? You can't even go to a garlic festival safely anymore? What has happened?
Maybe he was a vampire. And he was just really upset about it. It's just this
seriously?
garlic offends me.
Garlic festival?
I kind of
folks,
I wonder if our more artistic things were funded, if there'd be a reduction in violent stuff, because maybe kids need more outlets for things. More fun.
I mean, that's a complex subject.
More photography adventures for kids.
I mean, because you hear the news and they're like, well, this had a history of mental illness. You think.
I mean,
you think.
All of us do,
think.
We all deal with that kind of shit. And that's a broader conversation where it's just across the board, all of our countries and all of our people need to do a better job at actually being able to have candid and frank conversations about mental health and actually address it for what it is and not just be like, this is a crisis, and that's the maximum it gets out of it.
Less finger pointing as to who rights and who's wrong, and more hugs. I mean, it's just too much of I'm right and you're wrong, and we need to go back to hugs and taking care of each other.
I mean, as long as bad shit's happening, no one's right. That's, it's all just a shit show. And I mean, we live in a world now that also has become a lot more disconnected from itself. You probably remember this more than me because I'm still somewhat young, but I do remember when I was younger there was more community kind of
are
stuff.
You implying I'm not somewhat young?
I mean, comparative.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
It's I'm not saying you could be my mom, but
How old are you?
I'm 41.
Okay, yeah.
Which is weird. So I started working at Hewlett Packard Enterprise recently, and I met a dude in the office yesterday who is celebrating his 44th year in the company, which
Holy Toledo.
made me have some feels because I was like, fuck, you've been like in this job longer than I've been alive? That's fucking weird. Like this.
That is weird. There's a lot of people don't do that anymore. What people used to back in the day, they would stay at a company for so long because you'd get at the end of your 30, 40 years, you got a pension. But there's very few companies that do that now. So you can work someplace. Like if you start working someplace now and work there for 30 years, there's no pension waiting for you at the end of it.
Well, and I mean, like you used to get the gold watch and things like that. And my friend Alex, who is a huge Polaroid fanatic, she sent me this funny text last night of something she found on eBay. And it was a Polaroid one-step that had a placard put on it that said, "Thank you for your years of service, Polaroid Corporation." I was like,
I worked for Polaroid and all I got was this crappy Polaroid.
I mean, that would be a fucking hilarious shirt too. It's like, I work for Polaroid and all I got was this fucking one-step.
Here's your pension.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good luck finding film for it, but you'll be okay.
That would have been hilarious if that was like a service gift, like after they stopped production of the film, where it's just like, yeah.
Well, here's these cameras that are just laying around. I don't know what you're going to do with them. Put them on your shelf and get some Instagram clout. That's all you need.
Well, I mean, I do see some cameras on your shelf there, so, Speaking against you about that.
I don't use any of them.
That's fair.
Yeah, there's a speed graphic back there. I don't think it works. I've never used it. Wow. But see, I bought mine like a gazillion years ago for like $10 somewhere, and was like, it's cute, and it's just to look at. You could
probably sell that to some hipster now for like at least $800.
Well, it's not I don't think it's a 4x. It's not a 4x5 one. It's like a 3x5. Maybe.
Oh, it's a little guy. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably get like $200 for that.
Yeah, there's a brownie back there. I got a Holga and a Diana. There's some other ones. There's we got this Polaroid here. Can you even get film for this thing anymore? I don't even know.
Yeah, you can get film.
A one-step?
Yeah, you can still get 600 and SX70 film.
And there's that one. I think there's a land camera around here that's in a case. I use it as a doorstop. So, can you get film for land cameras anymore? I don't know.
Yeah, you can through SuperSense. They make a film called One Instant, and it's like just one film shot in each cartridge kind of thing. It's very expensive because it's a bespoke handmade film in Austria where people wear night vision glasses and go into these dark rooms and but you're ruining it. It's like it's an artisanal film, like organic, free range.
Free range. That's so cool.
Yeah, exactly.
When I was in grad school, they still made the Polaroid land camera film peel apart that came with a negative. Yeah,
the Type 55. And that happened because Ansel Adams, he was like, this Polaroid shit's kind of cool, but it's not real unless you have a negative. So, this is bullshit. And so Dr. Land was like, okay, well, we've upset Ansel Adams, so we better unfuck that situation. And they made Type 55, and that appeased Papa Ansel.
Do they even make that anymore?
Oh, they stopped making that a long, long time ago.
Oh, really?
It's a super coveted film by hipsters. But there are some dudes in New Hampshire or Massachusetts, like around that, Chowda area, that they're called New 55, and they're making new films that are similar to that, where you get a negative and it's like, it's the 4x5 peel apart. So it's like always been a single shot for those ones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as far as cameras and flexing, I'm trying to think. I mean, other than the actual ones that I've used or still use, there's just like all the other ones are just they're just for fun, because back in the day you could like go to a yard sale or an estate sale, get them for like $5 here and there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had times where I've had like way too many, and I've had yard sales or. I think I had a yard sale once when we were moving from Texas, and I put like all the ones I weeded some out. I'm like, okay, well, this one, all the ones that like actually would take 120 film or 620, those I kept, and then a lot of them I just got rid of. And I think I was having a yard sale, and I had them all in a box, and some young girl came up, and she was so excited, and she was eyeballing them. She's like, "How much do you want from them?" I'm like, "Just take them. I don't care."
Aww.
I'm like, I bought them for like $2 here, $5 there. Oh, she was like so super excited. I was like, if you're going to get that excited, I'm just going to give them to you.
Yeah, because she's going to eBay that shit and make like rent money off of it.
And then I had a friend of mine came over when I was like clearing out some stuff in Texas, and I gave her a bunch of old film type cameras. I was like, just take it. I mean, I'm not going to, and at the time I'm like, you're never going to find film for any of this. And I'm like, 2017 was like peak. I was like giving these things away during the peak. I was like, whatever. What can you do?
That's hilarious.
It's fun. They were fun. I got rid of photo books. I got rid of all sorts of crazy stuff. I kept the good photo books.
That's fair. You got to keep the good ones.
The signed Eggleston ones. Those I have.
Yeah, those are.
Yeah. They're in a. Oh, it's hysterical. It drives me nuts. People have their. I was watching a video the other day, and some girl had her Pentax 6x7 sitting on a shelf. And this isn't a photo channel. She's not even a film photographer, really. I mean, I think she dabbled in it at some point, but it's like a completely different kind of. They lived in a van or something.
Okay.
And then they were in Hawaii, and they were setting up their little room, and they're setting up their little kitchen, and she has it like sitting above the stove, and like every time she sits there,
oh my god,
and makes soup, and I could just see it the moisture wafting up to her, like Pentax 6x7 just sitting on the shelf, open air, making soup. I'm like, I know people are souping film, but that's not how you do it.
You don't soup the camera.
You don't soup the camera. I was just like, oh, or anytime someone has a video, I mean, at least put it in a covered glass cabinet or something, not just sitting on the shelf. I just go, dust. So much dust.
Here's a pro tip. If you don't like dust, I don't know if most people know that every toilet comes with a storage compartment. If you lift the back door off of the toilet, there's this really cool little cubby hole, and you put your cameras in there, and the water keeps the dust out of them. It protects them. It's just like, it's for safekeeping. Only put your most precious items in there.
My Hasselblad stays. My Hasselblad has its own little wrap, little quilty blanket wrap. I wrap it up in this little. It was this one camera company had, or I think it's made really for digital cameras. Like if you want to carry your big Lindsay digital thing around your neck. Oh, the loosey goosey camera around the neck. It gives me hives. Just swinging it around like it's a purse. I just can't handle it. So they made this contraption. It's like a quilted blanket. It looks like a puffer jacket for your camera, and you can like fold it, that you can roll it down and clip it, and you can walk around with your camera around your neck, but it's in a protective blanket, so to speak. So my camera is in the protective blanket in my film bag that is then put away far, far away from anything else. So I mean, she's wrapped up like a baby.
Oh my god!
And
you'd hate
only time the lens cap comes off is to shoot, and then the land caps goes back on. She goes back in her blanket. She goes back in her camera bag, and she just sits there all snuggled, nice and away.
You'd hate how I carry my cameras around then. I just throw them in, like, it's a regular old OGO backpack that I use for, like, work and my laptop and stuff. And I throw a bunch of cameras in there, and they just all raw dog each other in the fucking, like, main bin part.
Oh, my heart.
And when I carry my Nikon F5 around, it's usually just around this shoulder, and where I have it slung, the rivets on my jeans rub against the part of the back of it, and it's like all worn from like the rivets of my jeans.
You're an awful person. Terrible.
I just made it
now,
mine.
my Mamiya C33 is not in. It's not wrapped up. She's kind of hanging out, but she's hanging out behind closed doors. She's not out in the open.
Yeah,
and
but
dusty.
a C33 is not a delicate flower like a Hasselblad is, like, you know.
No, but she has mystical, magical powers. She fixed herself. Like it used to when I would like take it out and you could like something was in there rattling, but it doesn't rattle anymore. So either it's completely broken off and it's at the bottom of the camera. I haven't used it in like forever. I mean, I haven't used anything since, you know, I have a Hasselblad. Why am I going to use a Mamiya C33? Not to be an asshole, but still, seriously.
So you're just a Hassie shooter now then?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I do have the Pentax, but I take the Pentax out for fun to places that I would never take the Hasselblad anymore.
So that's like your slumming it camera then, like, you know.
That's let's go drive around and find some things fun and like, oh, there's a car. You know, I will stop and take a picture of a car. I'm not a complete asshole. I do it as well.
That's fair.
Oh, dude, a lit up gas station at night is, oh yeah.
There's nothing better.
There really kind of isn't.
No.
So I give him that. It's some fun stuff.
Well, I appreciate.
But every time I mention the Pentax 6x7, somebody mentions the 105. And here's a funny story. When I bought the Pentax, this is a good story. This will be a camera-related story, and then I won't mention poo.
Okay.
But I saw it listed in an estate sale because really I was like, you know, let's just check the estate sales today. Surely some old dude's gonna die eventually, and their film cameras is gonna pop up. I mean, it's bound to happen. So I was actually looking for a Rolleiflex. Why I needed another square, I have no idea. But I was just strolling through and I saw the Pentax 6x7, and in grad school I had always kind of wanted one, but you know, I never bought one because I couldn't afford it back in grad school. And you know, I'd been on Instagram for a hot second. I was like, oh yeah, those Pentax 6x7s look fun. I've always wanted one. So I saw one at an estate sale. I was like, I'm gonna go check it out. This is, you know, I don't know anything about cameras, really, like what to look for. I have no idea. I'm going in blind, which I don't recommend. Research your cameras. It was an impulse. It was an impulse buy. But I was like, whatever. And so I get there, and it was like the body, and it came with the case that the body came in. It came with all the accessories that you would want for the body, and then it had like 6 lenses, and all the lenses were still in the lens case. I mean, it was like everything looked nice, everything was clean. And I think originally when I talked to the lady on the phone, she had said she was looking for like $1,800 for all of it, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to roll the dice for something I have no idea what I'm buying.
Yeah.
For $1,800, I was like, that's much. But I'll go take a look at it and let's see. And so when I got there, what it was is her dad had worked for Honeywell, and every now and then, when they would do like an employee discount day or something, he would like get a new lens or get this accessory, and he just kind of built this whole little collection of the body and the 6 lenses.
Holy shit.
And then I have this Pentax notebook binder thing, and it has all this information, and it had the manual, it had everything, and everything, it was in a case, and everything looked clean and good. And I was like, so how much do you want for it? And she was like, well, 13. I'm like, wow, man. She went from 18 to 13. I didn't have to do anything. And I was like, well, how about 1,000? She was like, okay. So, I paid 1,000 for everything, which I don't know if that's good or if that's bad. I don't know.
That sounds like a really good deal.
So, and so I was looking at the cases, and the cases said like a 35 millimeter. There was like a 55, a 75. The case said a 90, and then a 200 and a 300. And I'm like, well, this 200 and 300, what am I going to do with that? I don't know. But it just all came, and I bought it. And then like anytime I said anything about a Pentax 7, everyone was like, the 105. I was like, I don't need a 105. I don't know what you're talking about. Who cares? The lens is a lens. Do you know what's in the 90 case? It's a 105.
Oh, wild.
So the whole time I was like, I don't need a 105. I was just sitting on it anyway. But I haven't used the 105. I've used the 55. The 55 is fantastic.
You've got to use the 105 at least once.
I'll use it at least once, and then I'll ponder whether or not I want to sell it. Because I did sell. At first I was like, I'm going to keep them all together because it's such a good story and blah, 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 blah. But I'm never going to use that fisheye lens, so I sold that to someone. So I'm never going to use it.
Fish eyes are so much fun, though.
They are fun and they're neat, but for what I do, I'm like, I'm never gonna. Because it's not like I go out and shoot every day and I'm just shooting all sorts of things. I mean, I go out like once a month, maybe. So
that's fair.
I mean, I don't shoot like every day or shoot a whole lot. So, so I'd rather give it to someone who is really excited to get it than for it to sit in a box in my basement. Because the lenses, I'm sorry, they're in the basement. They're in the cases in a plastic container, but when I found out that they were radioactive, I put that shit in the basement.
That's fair. Like, that's a good call, I think. Like,
Yeah, I don't know how radioactive. Because you go online, they're like, banana's just as radioactive. I don't know. That could be true. And then and then other people were like, well, don't cuddle it like a teddy bear and sleep with it, and you should be fine. So.
What if you want to do that?
I don't. Oh. I'd rather get a dog.
Dogs are great.
Dogs are great. I miss having a dog. I need to get a dog soon.
You should do that.
I do. I had a dog for like 20 years. Not the same dog. But I think I sat down and I thought about it. Well, I don't know. Maybe longer than that. I got my first dog when I was about 20. And then my last dog died in 2020. So it was 2 years ago. Oh, math. My head. So like for nearly 30 years, there wasn't a day that I didn't have a dog, sometimes two dogs. But now I have no dogs and I need another dog. So
you're the best.
But I gotta wait till I can go back to work at a vet clinic and then I'll get a dog.
That's fair. That makes sense. Well, I mean, I had a really great time chatting with you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, we didn't talk very much about film photography.
Well,
so
no, but so that's fine because like the idea with the chat is more to like get to know the photographer more and like find out more about them as a person, and not so much like have a circle jerk about gear and lenses and stuff like that because like there's thousands of other podcasts you can go listen to that for. So now I know about Fruity Pebbles, and I would have never known that had it not been for that.
This is stuff people really say. I'm like, I can't believe the 11 people are still here listening to.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Or my screen is frozen. It said 11 people the whole time. I just don't know how many people.
It goes up and down. I never really know where it's at, but there's the people that listened, and then it'll get uploaded into like Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all of that, and like
good God,
tens of people will listen to it there and also learn this. So you'll get out there. But thank you for hanging out with me. It was a lot of fun.
No problem. Thanks. Yeah.
I'm gonna do the outro thing now. And then next week, I'm not doing a chat. I'm going to be doing a live this Saturday for the exhibition I'm doing. And then the week after next week, Cactus Killer, a.k.a. Chris, other way around, I don't know. They're going to be with us. And then the week after that, Mr. Jason Lee is going to come on, and we're going to
no doubt. Fun time.
chat with him. So lots of cool stuff coming up on the chat. And if you know anyone that you want to hear more about, or you yourself want to like come on here and spend some time talking to a stranger, hit me up in the DMs. And otherwise, stay safe out there. Thanks so much for hanging with me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Okay, have a great day.
You too.
Or night. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, I'm going to bed.
All right, take care.
All right, bye.